and welcome to Happily Entangled AF. So today we are happy to present episode 40, and we are also going to try to debunk one of the myths. We did one in episode 38, I think, and now we're going to do one in episode 40. So welcome.
Hi, Assalamualaikum.
Welcome.
Hi. Welcome to, as Asma mentioned, episode 40. 40 weeks on. It feels like it's been longer than that though.
It does.
But 40 weeks?
40 weeks is a lot of time.
40 episodes in addition to everything else that's been happening, Iftar Insights.
That's why it feels like it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Trini vloggers as well. I hope you all saw what was supposed to have been Friday's episode, but it was posted on Sunday. So if you didn't get a chance to look at that, be sure to check it out right after this live.
Yeah.
So the myth that we are going to try to debunk today is the one where a lot of times you hear that marriage is 50-50. So I give 50 and my partner gives 50%. But we don't agree with that.
No, we don't. And before we actually tell you why we don't agree with it and instead offer a replacement for that, or a healthier statement or a belief or marriage mantra of sorts, we would like to ask for your feedback. I'm locked on to the live myself, only because I want to be able to get your feedback on this. So what do you think about this whole notion that marriages are supposed to be 50-50? I will start by saying that I think that a lot of very unhealthy marriage beliefs are born out of this sort of fairy tale storyline or plotline that so many like Mills and Boon's novels and these rom-coms, romance comedy movies, etc. They're really nice things to look at, and
But you could get carried away.
I think so.
And misshape your life because you think that, okay, so this is how it's supposed to be. At least maybe as a teenager you expect these things, and in your mind it kind of starts to set in, and so when you get married you expect that some of these things will happen,
Yeah.
and then
And
you're in for reality check.
especially when nobody has conversations like these with you beforehand to let you know what the reality is really like. I think so many young girls go into relationships expecting that fairy tale that they saw on the Cinderella stories and all of the other rom-coms that they've looked at, etc., and then they met with this disappointment. And I say that only because I think that statements like these, they sound nice. They're so nice to say, oh, marriage is a 50-50 partnership. It sounds dreamy. Dreamy is the word that I'm looking for, right? But is it actually how things are supposed to pan out, and what is really the healthiest approach to your marriage? And we actually disagree with this. And this is when I say we disagree, just like we disagreed with the happy wife, happy life, and replace that instead with happy spouse, happy house. This is another one of those things that both of us disagree with, and it's not a case of one of us disagreed with it and convinced the other. This was like always the case, and these were conversations that we would have had in one way or the other, even before we got married. So we understood all of these things about each other. So, question: please leave your responses down below now. Marriages being 50-50. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And more importantly, if you agree, why do you think a marriage should be 50-50? And if you disagree, why don't you think a marriage should be 50-50? And while we await some of your responses, I want to say hi to Auntie Nyla, to Stacy Bunsey, to Sir Samraj. Hey,
Hiking is back.
Hiking is back on. I would like to know when you're taking us on our first forest adventure. So Samraj, we're looking forward. Angie Samaru is with us. She's with me in the morning on air and again this afternoon. Kavita Ramrup, always a pleasure, my dear. And to Ruby Sami, glad to have you all with us. Okay, so no one's actually commenting on whether they think it's 50-50 or not, but good afternoon as well to Marissa Perali. Glad to have you with us, Marissa. So the question is, for those who are just tuning in, those who are just logging on to the live, it's are marriages 50-50? And instead of trying to explain it to you with words, that's why we have this cake here. So we're going to try to do, Celine says she thinks it should be 100, 100. Well, you could be onto something there, City. We're coming around to that full circle. Good afternoon to Rishma Prasad Garib and to Kelly Suknanan, who says she thinks you're quite cute, by the way. Thank you, Kelly. Anyways, so instead of explaining it to you with words, we have in front of us here a cake that we're all familiar with, right? So let's assume that this whole cupcake, this one whole entity, this one whole cake, right, is me, and the other is Asma, right? The concept of a marriage being a 50-50 institution is kind of like this. It's kind of like saying that this is me, 100 of me, this is her, 100 of her. In order to make the marriage work, today is Wednesday the 28th, right? In order to make this marriage work today, Wednesday the 28th, I have to give 50 and she has to give 50. So instead of where we both came from two separate vessels, two individuals, now we're saying marriage is 50-50, and this is what that 50-50 thing looks like. So this is me giving 50, and I would hope that she would give 50 today, right? And so I've given my 50 for today, Wednesday the 28th, and now she's giving her 50. But it's not even in the same vessel. Her 50 is here, my 50 is here. Even if we try to put it in one vessel, that's what it'll look like. So we're able to fill one vessel, but then something's falling short, something's not right. And then you have so many people who will tell you things like, well, you know, based on the culture, that the marriage should be 70-30 or 60-40. And we come up with all of these other ratios because we say, well, the man working, so, you know, he could only give 10% and the lady should give 90. Or, you know, we live in a culture where such and such is the case, so the guy should give more and the lady should give a little bit less, or the man should pursue her, and so on and so forth. But you're always going to end up in problems because you're always going to have parts of you that are underutilized, parts of you that just aren't being contributed to the marriage. Let me put it to you another way, right?
Or you're going to be holding back a little bit.
That's exactly, you read
So
my
you're
mind.
not giving everything. You just hold
That's
back
exactly the question that I was going to ask, right? Is it that after you give your 50% you stop, even if you have a little more to go, that you stop? That's the first question. Do you stop after you give your 50 and then just wait for your partner to come in with their 50? That's question number one. And the second question that I have is, who's keeping score?
Yeah.
Like, that's the biggest headache. Who is keeping score? How do you know that you have made your quota for today and she has not, and now you're waiting for her? And how do you measure it? How do you measure it against all these intangible things, all the chores that have to get done versus the, you know, like the physical labor versus the mental labor versus the emotional support that you may offer to the relationship versus your spiritual contribution? One party may be praying more than the other, or more spiritually inclined than the other. So how do you bring all of these entities full circle into some sort of calculation where you're then saying, well, the marriage is 50-50. I give 50 and she gives 50. You know?
True.
That
But
for
then
me
I feel like
is
that's
nonsense.
going to lead you down a road that could be detrimental, because if you always keep in score, then you'd be looking at it. So I did all the dishes, I swept, I cleaned, you know, I did all of this today, and all he did was look at television. But maybe he wasn't feeling good on that one particularly, and he just needed to react. So he gave what he could give, and you gave what you could give, but it just wasn't what you thought he should have given, because in your head you're like, okay, so I did my part, he's not doing anything, and then that's like a whole set of drama.
So I think we've become fixated with the whole 100% thing. But you have to understand that when you're in a marriage, it's two people, each of whom supposed to be giving 100%. So you end up with 200%. That's why it's a marriage. If it's a marriage, when you have that 200% being produced in your marriage, that's 100% of your marriage. So this is no longer 150 and 50 to make up 100. That's nonsense. It's I give 100, she gives 100, and when we both give 100, that's 200%. I'm giving 100, she's giving 100, and when we both give 100, that's the benefit of the marriage. So that will actually look a little more like this. Consider you have your two pieces, I know there's a lot of cake we have to eat after, right? So this is what a marriage looks like. You have one spouse or one partner and the other partner here, right? So these are your two partners. We're not trying to fill one vessel, right? The institution of marriage requires two individuals, two full whole individuals contributing together and working together towards combined goals. So this notion as well too that a person completes you. What, you're incomplete before, you're incomplete human being. If you're an incomplete human being, you should not be marrying another person. You should not be trying to get into a relationship. Alright? So although that sounds nice and dreamy, and again it comes from that rom-com culture about, you complete me and that sort of stuff, that is nonsense. If you want to talk to me about, and maybe use the terminology that, it's your twin flame or the yin to your yang, that's a different story kind of thing. If you believe in those things, that's a different story. But don't tell me this nonsense about this person completes you. You are a whole individual. I would hope that your partner is a whole individual. When two vessels come together in one package, and when you get married, that package is known as the institution of marriage. And when you get together, she means to cut the thing. When you get together, and you're able to then take both your whole healthy cells and fit into that one package.
Clearly. We must have put on weight.
This is what happens when you put on weight, correct? Try it. Good.
Yeah, you have to unzip your pants when you put on weight.
And that is what marriage is supposed to look like. A whole, full institution, a full, complete package. And not this sort of nonsense that people tell you about 50-50, or sometimes you end up hearing them talk about 70-30, all sorts of things. How many times you won't cut this baby? And who's going to keep score every single day? That's just nonsense. So that's our take on it. We'll kind of debunk two things altogether today. One, the notion that marriage is 50-50. That's a big fat myth. And I strongly suggest that you stop believing it if you do, and stop feeding that sort of unhealthy, cliched, dreamy, unrealistic nonsense to your kids, male or female. Stop feeding them that nonsense and let them know that for the marriage to be successful, they need to give 100 and their partner needs to give 100. What does 100 look like? It depends on you and it depends on your partner. And it's as simple as that. Sometimes I might be able to get 99 things done in a day and she gets one done. And I've given the best I can and she has given the best that she can. And other days, it's the reverse. Every single day is a new dynamic because every day we are awaking as a new human being with new information, new knowledge that we gain, new experiences under our belt. So that 100 is going to manifest itself differently every single day. And this is why marriage is called an adventure. Because today we get the adventure of seeing what her 100 is going to look like and what my 100 is going to look like. And sometimes, in all honesty, 100% in your marriage, giving 100 means just waking up and lazing around for a day. Or just saying, you know what, I give myself permission to do nothing today, and your partner fully understands and gets it, and may join you or may decide, well, if you're having a lazy day, I'll take care of these things. And that's what it looks like. It's a healthy union of two people, each giving the best that they can on each given day, and that is what makes the marriage full 100. That's what's going to make you 2 cupcakes in a pack.
But I think it's something that you need to discuss before you get married as well. So then you know where your partner's head is at, and you also know what you expect, so that you're not coming in, you expect to give 100 and your partner expects to give 50% or 30, or they expect that they're going to be checking up to see what you're doing. And okay, so if you're not helping out, well, I'm not helping either,
Yeah.
And you just leave it like that. So talk about it before. I think that really does help. And if you're already in the marriage and now realize, ooh, 50-50, that's all I'm giving, and I want to change it to 100, well then, talk about it now.
Yeah.
Have your family meeting. Talk about it, make the change.
Well said. And some people get so carried away with the 50-50 idea that you will do the dishes, but then you might cook, for instance, but then you refuse to do the dishes because you say, well, I cooked, marriage is 50-50, if I cook, he needs to do the dishes. That's not how it works. If you cook and he is doing something else for the benefit of the marriage, then you could also do the dishes because he is also doing something at that time for the marriage. He's not just plunked down in front of the couch looking at TV and not helping. But if it is that you both worked and you both came home after a day of work and yes, you're cooking, yes, sure, he could either help you cook and then help you do the dishes, or you cook and he does the dishes. But this notion of if I cook, he does the dishes, or if he cooks, I do the dishes, that sort of stuff, all of that is fabricated, sensationalized, just it's nonsense. It's novelty and it's
I feel
nonsense.
like you're going to be holding so much inside that at some point in time you're going to be eating yourself up, and the other person's so happy,
Yeah.
They're still going to want to do their thing their way, and you start to become very bitter, and then you can't understand why your marriage falling apart, or why you feel the way you feel, because you're keeping score all the time, and it's just going to start to drain you.
Correct. So that is our contribution for today. I didn't get a chance to look at some of the comments while they were coming in, but I would like to do so now and say hi to Sunita Ricky Ramkumar Singh. She says she disagrees. It should be a partnership. This was in the earlier part of the conversation. It should be a partnership. So if she's out of it, her husband can help, and vice versa. We fully agree with that. Nadira says depends on who you are married to and their characteristics. And that is exactly what we were saying earlier as well. You may be married to somebody who is not conditioned towards giving anything toward the marriage. Maybe they came into the marriage with preconceived notions of gender roles, and you're supposed to do this, and I'm supposed to do this.
Like some people believe that all they need to do is receive and not give.
Correct. Some people are selfish like that. And this is why it is so important to have so many of these conversations before, and why it is so important to really get to know the person that you want to marry. It's not just about falling in love with somebody who brings you flowers and chocolates and roses and imagining a fairy tale lifestyle, because soon enough that bubble will burst. So that's a very good point, Nadira. She says hi, Vanna, by the way. 50-50 compromise and communication. No. So Nadira, I hope you heard all that we said about why we don't support that 50-50 notion. Shalian says support means sometimes 80% may be needed. Some days you might only need to give 20%. It varies. Well, Shalian, we had a different way of saying that. We said that sometimes, like today for instance, your 100% might be 80% of what you gave yesterday, but this is your full 100 that you're able to give today, and that's the difference. Every day you give the 100 that you're able to give. Your health will affect the 100 that you're able to give, and what that 100 looks like in terms of things you can do and how you can support the marriage and your partner. Your financial situation will affect that. Your emotional state will affect that. Just economic things will affect that. Your family culture will affect that. So many things will have an impact.
So you were saying earlier when we were chatting that before we got into the live, that we're not machines, we're human beings. So every day we're going to be different. Some days we will break down a little bit, and some days we're not going to be as strong. We can't do the same thing every single day, and the same routine is going to change. Yeah,
and I want to say hi to Sandy, just on a side note. Sandy is living abroad and just got excited, not by the conversation, but by the kiss cakes. So Sandy, hi to you, my dear. Hope you are well, and regards to Auntie Max and the rest. Stacy says she disagrees on the 50-50. Her marriage is that sometimes her husband gives more and she would give less, and vice versa. They just give the best that they can. Nafi says, I think it should be whatever percentage is needed. Sometimes a person might not be able to give 50%, sometimes they could give 10%. Realize I didn't say husband or wife. And Nafi, that's pretty much what we're saying as well, that if every day you give 100%, you and your partner both give 100%, that's all that is required. If your 100% means that you're giving 10% for 3 consecutive days of what you gave the day before, all of that on the 4th day before, then that's okay. You're giving 100 based on your circumstances for the day. It's as simple as that. Nadira also wants cake. Hi to Marissa Prasad. Good afternoon as well to Lakshman Suklal, to Kelly Suknana, and she says one union, and that is why it's called a marriage. She totally agrees. Rohan Sukram says mutual respect of each other's space is key. Lisa, hey Lisa, how you going, girl? I feel like I didn't see you this morning, but I did. Shanti Mangru says, myself and my husband give our all. We don't look for 50 because it's a best communication. Good afternoon to Akil Remy. Javed Zah says, I always say this in weddings. Marriage is 100-100. That is our best khutbah. That is our best sermon. And if at the end of this you take nothing away but cake and one message, please let the message be that marriages are 100-100. Your partner gives 100, You give 100, the best that you can each and every day, however that 100 manifests or demonstrates or, or comes about, and that's the key to it. Just so you will never harbor resentment, you will never have to waste energy on keeping score, and so on and so forth. Nisha says, well said. Nadira says, should we trust a 50-50 statement? Shabana says, it's all about balance. For instance, when your partner is not well, you need to pull your weight. Exactly. Well said, Shabana. Every day won't be the same. We both need to be there for each other consistently. Aslam Rashid says, best games. What games are that, Aslam? I'm not sure what is that. Salisha said, we never had that convo. We just do our part and keep each other happy. It's understood that we can only do so much, but thankful that there is no pressure. That is very beautiful, actually. Special hi to Fawn Deoman Singh, to Sadia Ghani, Suzanne Mohan, our neighbor from out on the main road, and once again to Kelly Suknanan. Glad to have you all with us. Thanks for joining us on the live. Thanks for your comments, and we're getting set to wrap up. Hope you enjoyed.
Before we go, we need to say a special belated birthday.
Yes, right? Yes. A friend of ours by the name of Chanel. She celebrated her birthday recently, and she said to us that the only thing she wanted for her birthday was for us to say hi to her on one of the Happily Entangled AF marriage vlogs. So Chanel, on behalf of your husband, your dad, your mom, your brother, the rest of the home circle, and most importantly, Aspa and myself, happy belated birthday greetings to you, my dear. Hope you had a really wonderful day, and we'll be passing by Sham's Catering for some Chinese food very, very, very soon. And depending on the mood, we might stop by for some curry as well. We had our curry fix recently, so we're more in the mood for Chinese. But thanks so much. Please remember to share these messages in whatever way you can, even if it involves cake, with your children. Simply because we know that we grew up in a generation where we didn't have these conversations, but that doesn't mean that your children can't have these conversations. And that does not mean that your child is too young to understand these concepts. Don't let their first message about marriage be from a rom-com, and then they have these unrealistic expectations. Let it come from you, mom and dad. Let it come from a kiss cake if necessary, showing, hey, marriage is 100-100 and not 50-50 or any other, equation like that. It's 100-100. Each person gives their best every single day, whatever that looks like. Each day will be different. One day at a time, sweet Jesus, as the song goes, and you go from there, So thanks again, and we hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Thanks for viewing, and God willing, we will catch up with you again next Wednesday. Yes. So any words in closing while I go close off the live? Bye for now, buddy.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today. This was an impromptu live, and we really appreciate all the support that we've been getting so far. So I'm going to enjoy some kiss cake. It's a little bit sweet, and hope that we don't get diabetes from it. So hope you all go out, get your kiss cakes, show your children a lesson, cut it up, they might enjoy it.
Or bake your own at home.
yeah. I mean, I can't bake, so we have to improvise here. So until next week, bye.